Good morning, Pleasure to meet you today. First, I hope everyone is healthy, safe, and ready for new opportunities in 2021. It's always a good feeling to meet with you all here, willing to know more about China, and most importantly, to make a breakthrough entering to this not easy market. 2021 will be exceptional for Lithuanian businesses wishing to work with the China market. We all know how difficult and complicated to start trading with China in a traditional way. So we had searched for the other solutions, and one of them I'm happy to announce today. In spring, Versli Lietuva plans to open a Lithuanian national e-commerce pavilion in China, which will help Lithuanian companies to open new export channels using cross-border e-commerce model. For this goal, Versli Lietuva selected China Tmall Global, which is the largest e-commerce cross-border trade platform in China. So today you will be able to know more about recent e-commerce trends in China, the possibilities of a Tmall Global platform, and most importantly, about the practical steps, how to apply for a presence in Lithuanian National Pavilion in this platform. Presentations will be given by the highly valued professionals from Web2Asia and Versli Lietuva. I encourage you to ask questions as many as possible. Do not hesitate to do that, because now it's the best moment to get all the answers. Please write your questions in the comment section in English if they are for the international speakers, and in Lithuanian if it is for Versli Lietuva representatives. Let's begin. First of all, I would like to invite for a welcome word Director of the Export Department of Versli Lietuva, Rasa Uždavinytė.
Thank you, Andrews. Sveiki visi. Hello, everyone. I'd like to make a few notes in regards to this project and this initiative we are starting. So at Enterprise Lithuania, as a government agency responsible for entrepreneurship and export promotion, we have started to look at e-commerce and to develop initiatives since approximately 2 years ago, just like Andrews quickly mentioned somewhere there. And to date, we have a number of e-commerce training and consultation initiatives and projects to offer for Lithuanian companies. Obviously, during that time, e-commerce has climbed to new heights because the consumer habits are changing, and especially in the times of pandemia. So COVID-19 only highlighted the opportunities to increase sales, to increase trade in foreign markets through e-commerce channels. Therefore, I'm very happy today that we were successful to end last year with a contract with our partner, well, now contractor, Web2Asia. And we are launching this Lithuanian National Pavilion in the top e-commerce platform, Tmall Global. Lithuania has what to offer. Our companies produce innovative, creative, sustainable products. And obviously with this project, with this initiative, we are aiming to raise Lithuania profile in general in China and in Asian markets, and to open new export channels to our companies and to raise the profile of their brands. So I want to thank all participating today, and thanks to Andrews also, who actually, when he was back in Enterprise Lithuania, was working with this project. We have moved on and we developed it. And my team member Tauras will present today actually in Lithuanian language the opportunities we bring to Lithuanian companies, and we will invite you to register soon after. And I'd like to thank the partners participating today, and I hope for very interesting discussion and a lot of information that will be useful and win-win for all of us. So thank you all and good luck. Let's work more.
So let's move to the presentations, and this is what came here today. I hope so. It will be very interesting for you, and you will gather the information you were waiting for so long. As Rasa mentioned, we are working for quite some time to finally have this project. And now I would like to give a floor for the Dr. Renata Tsibau for the Web to Asia. She's an international expert in the e-commerce business. From 2019, she incubated more than 30 companies to strategize a business to open online stores with Alibaba Marketplace. So Renata will talk about cross-border e-commerce in China and how does it work in general.
Thank you, Andrews, for the introduction, and thank you, the team, also to invite me to talk about a little bit on e-commerce in China, and more specifically about this project. Actually, I am so happy that now things are moving forward, because I've been talking to Lithuanian companies since mid last year. And I realized at that time, it was around July, that I gave some training to Lithuanian companies, that the country really has potential. Okay, so today I am going to explain to you a little bit about the ecosystem in China and how e-commerce evolves here in the country, especially regarding cross-border e-commerce. So the e-commerce market has been growing steadily in the past years in China, and more or less year on year, they have an average of 18 to 20% growth. However, if you only consider this data, does not give you a full picture of what e-commerce represents in China nowadays. It is already 32% of China's whole GDP. Okay, and not only this, if you compare the traditional retail and also e-commerce, it is expected to be over 69% of the total retail in the country. So yeah, so many brands also ask me if they would still open an offline shop in China because of these numbers. And I really believe that e-commerce is not only the future of China, it's already the present, of course. But there are so many ways for the companies to come to China to enjoy e-commerce, being that from the omnichannel perspective, maybe O2O, doing online, offline, then purely e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce. So I'm not sure if you know the difference of cross-border e-commerce and domestic e-commerce. So it's important for me to highlight the differences, because for this project, we are only going to focus on cross-border e-commerce, which is the main market strategy for foreign brands to come to the Chinese market. So first of all, for you to be able to sell online in China in domestic marketplace or on WeChat, on Tmall from Alibaba, or Taobao, which is a more C2C platform, you must have a registered company in China. You must have operations. You must do the import process, which Andrews already explained, and Raz as well. That can be a bit complicated for foreign brands, and also very high cost, right? So cross-border e-commerce facilitates the online business and this welcoming, let's say, of this company to the Chinese market. So you do not need to have a trademark registered in China. You do not need to have your products actually here in the Chinese market to sell to Chinese consumer. So if you compare cross-border e-commerce with e-commerce, the growth year on year is much higher. It is around 66%. And it is very interesting. Last year, when the outbreak, the coronavirus outbreak, started in the country, many people started not only shopping online, but shopping from cross-border marketplaces and also from imported brands. So we really could see the trend and the growth. So right now, it is growing more or less 66%. Okay, so compared to domestic e-commerce, which is 18%, you really can see a huge potential. Okay. And who are the players? Where to sell when we talk about cross-border e-commerce? Well, in the previous years, there was a platform that was outside of Alibaba Tencent ecosystem, which was called Kaola. Kaola was a growing platform for especially foreign brands that wanted to sell in China, being that fashion products, health supplements, and cosmetics. They are very strong in these segments, though they also serve any other category. And last year, because of the prominence of the platform and the market share that they achieved in China, selling even more than Tmall, which belongs to Alibaba, Alibaba acquired Kaola, their cross-border platform. So now you do have Alibaba as the main player in the e-commerce market here in China with Kaola, with Tmall, and somehow also with Xiaohongshu, which is Little Red Book, a social commerce platform here in China that is also very important and it's gaining a lot of tractions with 5.3% market share. Okay, so if you put these numbers together, Alibaba really has almost half of the e-commerce market in China regarding cross-border. And then you have JD, okay? JD is the direct competitor of Alibaba. However, for cross-border e-commerce, they are not very important as the other ones. So they only have 12.5% of market share. And it is for this reason that we decided to open the Lithuanian pavilion on Tmall cross-border platform instead of JD. So when you think of the Chinese market, of course, we do not think of 1.5 billion people being exposed to your products. You only need to see what is relevant for the market, who you are going to sell to. For cross-border e-commerce, most of the shoppers are female, between 25 and 34 years old. And they also are highly educated and they have a higher income compared to domestic e-commerce. So the most interesting thing is that they are willing to buy imported brands because they read foreign magazines, they have access to foreign products, either by traveling, going abroad, or asking friends or relatives to bring their products back home. So we have to look into this persona when you want to come to China and develop your strategy through social media, for example, or through paid marketing. So again, this persona corresponds to more or less 48% of the cross-border e-commerce sales in China. Yes, it's mostly female driven. And because of that, they prefer buying cosmetics, beauty products. This is for sure the top one category in China. Then baby products, it could be diapers, milk powder, especially. Then food and beverage. Food and beverage, I would say more snacks. However, there are some categories that are growing very well in China, like sports supplements and slimming products, or anything related to weight management. So if there is any brand in this segment, I would strongly suggest to come to China. And then some other segments that are also good on cross-border e-commerce platforms in China are luxury goods. However, this is more specific because consumers, they want more, of course, the top selling brands abroad like Louis Vuitton and Gucci. However, there is a huge potential also for more boutique kind of brands. Okay, so luxury, however, not a mass consumption type of product, not really well known, but very specific, very niche. And then, of course, health supplements. It was also always the top one selling category, though it has declined in the last years, is still a very good category to be sold on cross-border marketplaces. So when I say health supplements, I'm talking about vitamin C, all of the capsules, OTC capsules that are sold online. And also some type of beauty related products like collagen that also sells super well online in China. So talking about COVID, I see COVID, of course, as a big challenge that we have faced in China and also globally, but also a very good opportunity, especially for e-commerce and for many brands, and for us who are very creative and like innovating, right? So it pushed us a lot to the next level. So talking about COVID, for e-commerce, it gave a lot of growth opportunity for snacks, okay, and personal care products and anything home cleaning and fresh food. Because consumers, they started paying more attention to their health. They started doing many things from their home that they are not used to, like cooking, for example, or cleaning. Okay, so these are also very good segments. Regarding makeup, it is very interesting that the top selling products were always lipsticks, for example. But because of the face mask, many people started buying products for the eyes, like a highlighter, like eyeshadow. So it also opened a new range of sales for other makeup products other than lipsticks only. Okay. And in China, these are the top selling products that we really could see a huge growth in sales during the pandemic. So most of them, they are either health-related products or food-related products, especially exercising machines. So you can see the growth of 4 times more of meat, 3 times more of seafood, and cooked rice 2 times more, so it doubled than the period before the pandemic. And all of the other products were exercising machines like yoga mat. The sales grew 6 times, okay, and dance rugs 8 times. So this created a huge demand for not only Chinese brands to explore more this market, because before they are not the top selling products, the top selling categories on e-commerce in China. So because of that, many companies, they started selling these products or developing these products and even considering open an online shop. And unfortunately, some foreign brands, they did not, of course, have access to data or to the Chinese market. So it is time for foreign brands to catch up with these industry trends. So it's very important to understand consumer behavior, as well as the new trends that were somehow generated by the COVID outbreak. And I could not finish my presentation without talking about the power of social media, the power of live streaming. Live streaming in China corresponds to more or less 10% of all online sales. It is very important for a brand to first do the market entry strategy, really understand the market, understand consumer behavior, to then develop the strategy. Where should I sell? And what should I sell? At what price point I should sell? Okay, so especially now that we are going to launch our pavilion, we have so many brands, we have so many products. We really need to use data to select the best products that we know that Chinese consumers are willing to buy, to purchase. So this is a tip for any brand that wants to join our project or to come to China. But it's not only this. After you already have your store, after you are selling online, you need to have a very strong content, because consumers, they want to know why they should buy your product, why this product is different from the other one. And of course, understand about the qualities of Lithuanian ingredients, and also I know about the organics, the natural products that are very good in Lithuania that could be a huge success in China. And through this content development, you must use social media, because most of people, they are on the phone. Sometimes the holiday, when they take the subway, from the time they wake up, they eat breakfast watching the phone. They have their lunch watching the phone or the dinner. So you really need to also invest some budget into paid marketing to attract some customers to the store, for them to know more about your brand and your products as well. And on social media. Social media, the main players are WeChat, Weibo. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the players here in China. They are very similar to the Western platforms. So Weibo is more like Twitter. Then you have a little red book that is very good for fashion and well-being products, but not so much for electronics, for example. And within Tmall ecosystem, you have also so many content channels that you can develop. I have an example here. I have a screenshot of what you can do inside of the store and inside of Tmall marketplace for you to present your products, to sell your products. You can give coupons, right? You can give discounts. And this is a very effective way to attract the consumers, but not only this, to develop your brand in China. So I do not think that sales is everything. When a foreign brand comes to China, they needed to build the brand from the beginning, and it's step by step. Sometimes back home, they are the leader in the market. Sometimes they have more than 100 years history. But in China, they needed to start over. They need to understand that Chinese consumers do not necessarily know their brand. So that's where content play a crucial role to the brand development. That first will help with branding, then will help with generating traffic to the store, and finally to sales. So this is the goal also of our project, not only sell products or sell Lithuania. We wanted to create a storytelling to tackle these consumers, to show them the quality of our products. And more than this, to show the background, all the history, and how we can leverage and drive traffic and, of course, sales to our store. So I would like to ask if anyone has questions. I am actually very excited to to join you today to introduce a little bit more about the project and about China, because it's very important to know also the background of the Chinese e-commerce. So I am open for questions.
Yes, so Renata, questions will be in a Q&A session after all the speakers will finish their presentations. So I encourage our audience to think about the questions, or they can already write the questions in the comment section. And now we will move to another honorable speaker. I would like to invite Lats Tran, who is a recognized e-commerce and digital strategist in China. Lats has over 18 years of experience in digital media and strategy, and he will talk about the technical part of the project. So Lats, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. So the goal, I think, on my part is now that we are lucky enough to be able to help you guys to be able to build the store, I think is to explain how things will work on a practical matter. So let me start to share my screen, 2 seconds. Is it fine now? Yes? Okay. So first one, the first topic is I want to put in perspective what is the flagship store, what is the pavilion store that we want to be able to create, so everybody has an understanding what is the end goal as a start, right? So this is an example of a home page. So every single of these screens is still part of a scroll down page. What we need to realize is the page is very long. It's very visually intense. It is very, very different than what you would probably see on Amazon. Most of the time when you run an e-commerce in Europe, the first screen when you arrive is the screen that has most of the visibility, and as you scroll down, there's less and less traffic. But in China, or especially in the marketplaces, all of this becomes obsolete. People scrolls and scrolls and scroll. So it's important to be able to have that wealth of things. What we can have, though, on the first page at the top is some sort of slider where we can showcase multiple products for the week, for the month, depending on what needs to be promoted, right? Although the traffic will most of the time not necessarily arrive on the homepage, they will arrive on the product page. And this is where things get even more complex, right? So this is an example of one product page. And again, this is only half of the product page, right? So the reality is, if you take screenshots of screenshots, you usually would have an average of 10 screens to scroll down. So the storytelling of your product becomes incredibly important, the visual aspect. So think about if you're doing B2B sales, and then usually in your brochure, you would have all of that information, of that visuals. We need to be able to take that and redesign it into one page where the consumer knows what it is. So if we run through some of these screens, is we have information about the products, information about the reasons to buy, information about the product benefits, if there's any certifications. And then afterward, after we describe all of the reasons why the product needs, has all of these value added, we're starting to have the discussion about, well, what is the brand about? So we're going to start to describe the brand history, the brand awards, the brand ambassadors, anything that's related to the brand. And then in the case of the Enterprise Lithuania store, after all of this, most probably at the bottom, we need to be able to add information about what is Lithuania, what is representing, and how all of these would fit. As an example, if we talk about the fruits, maybe put it in perspective about different elements where it correlates to the theme of the store, which is Lithuania, right? So the product page, everybody would need to start to think about what do we need to prepare in terms of content. Like I said, imagery and video, critical. Localizing of your content and the storyline. So think about, we need to educate most of these people. Why is your product so beneficial? So that storytelling is absolutely critical. The reasons to buy, the benefits, the competitive advantages. Like I said, brand story, certifications, awards, and different elements of the brand history, right? So that's the goal of every single product. The difference is every single company part of the store, we will be selecting a certain quantity of products, either your hero products or products that we think has the most chance because of the market size, because of the trends. So we will be able to sit down with you guys and try to run down what are all of these products that we should put. Having your whole catalog will not be helpful, but really being selective as a start, that's how we would be able to build success. So now that we understand the end goal of what will the store look like, I think we need to be able to understand the process to be able to achieve in terms of all of the different moving parts to be able to arrive at that flagship store. So the first element that we need to talk about is orders and logistics. I think we need to be able to understand how we're going to achieve that. So the idea is we have a team that will help you guys after we define the products that you want to put on the store. We will be able to work with you guys a product planning and an inventory plan. So with the inventory plan, we will work with you how you can ship it to China. So the way that it works is it's a normal export process. You need to fill all of the normal paperwork. We will guide through the process. What are the items to fill? Which port that you need to send it to? And then we will help you to fill the pre-screening of customs. Because we're talking about a cross-border sales. So it means that you as the product owner will be selling through this flagship store to the end consumer. When the product will arrive in China, we will not import the product. The consumer will import the product. So think about the process of, I go to Lithuania, I start to visit a store, I buy it, I put in my luggage, I come back to the airport and I declare this product, hey, I've bought this, I will pay my taxation. So the end consumer is responsible for the import tax. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the product into a free trade zone where the product will be pre-declared. So it means that it is valid by Chinese law. All of the regulations is valid. You do not need to have Chinese labels. We want to have the exact same labels as you have in your home country, that original packaging. And that's what the bonded warehouse will receive as a pallet, as a container, regardless of what the planning is. And it will sit at the bonded warehouse. So that part is what we will work with you. It's the only thing with the logistical part that you need to handle. From the moment that it arrives at the bonded warehouse, this is where the China process will take over. At the moment of a consumer that makes an order, the bonded warehouse will do the pick and pack. It'll finalize the custom clearance on a consumer import level. And this is very important because the taxation level, you are not liable of that import tax. The consumer pays for it. We might do marketing where we can incentivize that import tax, but the Chinese government will always receive that consumer import tax. Then after the product is cleared from customs, it'll go to the last mile delivery and it will reach the Chinese consumer. From the point of the bonded warehouse where the consumer makes an order, on average, it will take around 2 to 3 days for the Chinese consumer to receive the product, including the custom clearance. So the logistics process that we're talking about, where we need the involvement of every single companies, is really how are we going to work together to be able to get the products into the bonded warehouse, right? So now that we have products in China, what's really critical to be able to understand is how is the transaction works out, because at the end of the day, it's all about financial consolidation and everybody going to the stores like, how will this work out, right? So what happens in the store, a consumer browses the Tmall, gets onto your website, puts product in the basket, and he decides to check out. At the moment of checkout, if the value is 100 euros, he will see 100 euros as the subtotal. Now, like I was saying, the import tax gets applied. Let's say he will pay 10% of import tax. Then suddenly his real total of what he will pay is 110. So this is what the consumer pays. When the consumer pays, Alipay takes care of that transaction. So the beauty of this process is every single transaction, the money has been received. There's no credit card. There is no payment by checks. The fraud level is quasi inexistent. So we don't have that problems of what if I will not get paid. Every transaction is accounted for. So the goods will only leave the bonded warehouse when the consumer has paid and Alipay receives the payment. So when Alipay receives the payment, Alipay acts as an escrow service. So it means that they will hold the money and then the products can leave the bonded house securely. The Chinese consumer will be able to see the tracking of when he will receive the product. And then when he receives the product, which is the last step into this, he has two choices. Either he will go into the back end of Tmall and he will click, I received the product, or after 15 days, Tmall will consider this product has been received, in which case, as soon as the status is become received, the Alipay account gets credited for the transaction. In this case of the flagship store is, we will receive, let's say the shipping time is 5 days and the maximum time to receive the value of the transaction is 15 days. The transaction time is 20 days. We will be credited into our Alipay account the full value, and then it will be transferred to our bank whenever we reach a certain minimum, 3,500 euros in total, or every month. And then in which case we are able to consolidate and send back into different bank accounts. All of the consolidation with the breakdown of the different costs. So that's how, when we're looking at a transaction from the moment the Chinese consumer will buy, all the way down to when the merchant will receive the funds. So we will look at around 20, 30 days cycle in this process. So now that we have an idea of how the store would look like, how we can have products to sell to the Chinese consumer, and we understand how all of this financial element works, we need to understand what are we going to do to promote the store. And this is where every single merchant, we need to work with you guys individually to understand. I think Renata pointed out is we need to understand your product strategy, your marketing strategy. So we've laid out the base foundation of what we will provide. And then, of course, we can provide more, but as a start and see where things will go. So what it means is we will have in the middle your flagship store, which is the Enterprise Lithuanian store. The element on the right-hand side is all activities that are within the Alibaba Tmall ecosystem. The first one is very related to paid marketing. So we are looking at the traditional keywords, how we can do banners, how we can do affiliates, how we can do campaigns, how we can work with Alibaba itself to be able to get the products, and what type of media budget we can work with every individual brands to say, well, if you operate into, taking back the example of Renata, into the lipsticks, what are the proper keywords or media buy mechanism that we can put in place. On top of that, Renata touched live streaming. Well, there's two sets of live streamings, right? We are also planning within the flagship store to be able to do in-store live streaming. So think about as a shopping channel where people can come in, ask questions about the product, ask questions about the store, really promote the store itself, and then products will vary on different show. And then we're planning to do that multiple hours on a monthly basis on a standard. So as our traffic grows, it's like building the audience and the interaction. The third one is small videos. So how can we create small videos with every single brand that consumer will review, product presentation? So those are the small videos. On the left-hand side is where we are thinking about all of the tools we can use outside of your flagship store of Tmall to be able to drive traffic to there. So Renata touched that very well. On the social media, we are planning to do some WeChat and Weibo, but there's also extra opportunities that we're able to do with KOLs, with TikTok, with Xiaohongshu, which is like a social marketing platforms. So we can evaluate that with every single brand. What is your proper marketing mix? And that's how we would compose to be able to build all of the traffic from Enterprise Lithuania and also from your own initiative that you're able to put in. So the idea is, now that we have a front end, now that we know how to send the products to China, now that we understand how the payment goes and how the transaction goes, and you understand how we would market the store, we also want to give you the tools for you to understand what's the performance of my store, what's the performance of my product. So with the team, we've built a tool in English. If the request is big enough, I'm fine to be able to translate that into different languages. So right now we have English, French, and we're slowly translating into different platforms. So you understand your own performance. So obviously the guys from Enterprise Lithuania will have an overall view, but every single merchant will have their own view of what's your gross sales, what is your order per hour. So that's critical to understand if we're going to run a large campaign. Did we succeed in the proper hours of the campaign, right? What type of quantity of orders are we talking about? What's the average basket size? This is the same. What type of regions does your consumer is buying from? It is important. Our goal is to give every single merchant enough information about China. So as we grow the store, I think we want to educate you guys as much as possible. So when we plan something with you, you're able to make an educated guess with us, and not just says we want to rely on you. We want to have your word and your all of your, your product, and we're able to accelerate that process, right? So same goes to, this is the information about the status of every single order. The person is waiting to pay. The transaction has now been received by the consumer. So you would know what's happening. And then you have detailed information about, this is my consumer. This is the timeline of the order. Right now it is paid. He did not ask for a refund for this order. This person comes from this specific regions in China. So we are building the knowledge for you to be able to operate. I understand that a lot of this, it's a lot of information to process. I've added much more information into further slides down. I don't want to overtake some of the time, but I'm sure that if you have questions, we are able to dig down into every single process with you guys or through a different groups. But the goal is we want to include you into the process to make sure that you feel you're participating into the success of this, right? So that's what we have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, lads, for your presentation. I think it's now more clear what we are doing now. And next speaker I would like to introduce is Tauras from Enterprise Lithuania. You will mainly deal with him on questions how to apply for the National Pavilion. I will switch now, dear speakers, to Lithuanian and explain a little bit in Lithuanian language, and Tauras will proceed in Lithuanian. Taigi Tauras dabar papasakos jums apie konkrečius žingsnius, kaip galima bus aplikuoti, kad galima būtų patekti į šį paviljoną ir nupasakos, kaip atrodys visas procesas. Tai Taurai, laukiame tavęs.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Andres, for introduction. First of all, I have to apologize my colleagues from Web2 Asia that I'm going to present in Lithuanian, but I'm pretty sure that most of the content that is in my presentation they already know. So, so now I'm going to continue in Lithuanian. And right. Tai sveiki dar kartą ir pirmiausia noriu pasidžiaugti, kad sulaukėme tiek daug sudomėjimo šio projektu. Tai puikiai atspindi dalyvių skaičių šiandienos webinare. Tai taip pat aš pavadinčiau didelę pergalę, kad šiandien Versli Lietuva po 2 metų, galima sakyti, tokių amerikietiškų kalnelių su šio projektu pagaliau turi mano manymu puikų operatorių Web2 Asia, kuris turi sukaupęs didelę e-komercijos patirtį, bendradarbiaujant su užsienio įmonėmis, kuriant panašius projektus kaip ir mūsų. Ir iš tikrųjų prieš kelis metus dar, kai gyvenau Kinijoje, aš mačiau tokią lietuvišką įmonių kooperaciją e-komercijos srityje. Ir tai taip pat yra didelė galimybė įsitvirtinti prekės ženklams Lietuvoje ir šiandien tai jau yra realus projektas, kuriame galėsite dalyvauti. Taigi, kodėl e-komercija Kinijoje? Tai pirmiausiai e-komercijos rinka, Kinijos e-komercijos rinka turi daugiau negu 50% nuo visos pasaulinės e-komercijos rinkos. Tai taip pat teikia tarpvalstybinės e-komercijos lengvatas, apie kurias šiek tiek kalbėjo ir Renata. Tai yra muitų lengvatos, PVM mokesčių lengvatos, supaprastinti išmuitinimo procesai ir taip pat galimybė naudotis laisvos ekonomikos zonose įrengtais sandėliais. Tai iš tikrųjų taip pat yra ir neišnaudotos Lietuvos eksporto galimybės į šią rinką, kadangi mūsų eksportas, lyginant su ES vidurkiu, yra mažesnis į šią rinką ir pagrindinis eksporto pagrindinės eksportuojamos prekės, tai yra žemos pridėtinės vertės arba žaliavos. Tai mes tikrai turim dar daug galimybių ir eiti su lietuviškais produktais į šią rinką. Ir iš tikrųjų, Kinija yra, kodėl Kinijos platformos pasirinkome, dėl to, kad tai yra taip pat ir vartai į kitas Azijos rinkas. Tai tarkim, kaip Tmallas, JD ir kitos didelės Kinijos e-komercijos platformos, jos taip pat bendradarbiauja su Pietryčių Azijos e-komercijos platformomis, kur galima parduoti prekes, jas listinguojant, tarkim, Tmall'e, jas taip pat galima parduoti kitose Azijos e-komercijos platformose ir vice versa. Tai čia yra toks trumpas grafikas, kaip atrodo bendra Kinijos e-komercijos dalis pasaulinėme kontekste. Tai iš tikrųjų tai yra virš 50% visos pasaulinės rinkos. Ir šiek tiek pavyzdžių apie šiek tiek kitų nacionalinių paviljonų pavyzdžių, kurie yra Tmall Global. Tai dauguma ES šalių jau turi nacionalinius paviljonus šioje platformoje. Tai Olandija, Danija, Vokietija ir Prancūzija ir iš tikrųjų dar tų paviljonų daugiau nacionalinių. Tai į tai atsižvelgiant, mes galvojam, kad Lietuvai irgi jau laikas dalyvauti tokiuose, turėti tokį paviljoną. Tai kaip atrodo Lietuvos nacionalinio paviljono modelis, tai pirmiausia reikia suprasti, kad Tmall Global tai yra e-komercijos, tarpvalstybinės e-komercijos platforma, kuri suteikia tik tai vietą pardavinėti prekes, už kurį yra imamas metinis mokestis, bet tai nesuteikia kažkokio konkretaus e-shop ar dizaino ar kažkokių kitų paslaugų. Visą tai atlieka mūsų partneris operatorius Web2Asia, kuris bus atsakingas už paviljono infrastruktūros kūrimą, palaikymo paslaugas, rinkodarą, logistiką, klientų aptarnavimą ir taip toliau. Versli Lietuva šiame modelyje yra tai, kad didžiąją dalimi finansuoja šį projektą, taip pat prižiūri projektą įgyvendinimą ir bendradarbiauja tiek su operatoriumi, tiek su įmonėmis, kurios dalyvaus projekte. Tai kaip atrodo projekto kaštų pasidalinimas, tai tarp įmonių ir Verslios Lietuvos, tai didžiąją dalimi infrastruktūros kaštus, visus infrastruktūros kaštus dengia Versli Lietuva. Palaikymo paslaugas didžiąją dalimi taip pat dengia Versli Lietuva, su tam tikrom išimtim, kas liečia klientų aptarnavimą ir užsakymų valdymo sistemos aptarnavimą, kur bus galima įmonėms pagal jų individualius poreikius, jeigu bus kažkokie papildomi poreikiai, galima bus tartis su operatoriumi dėl tų poreikių patenkinimo. Tai ir rinkodaros paslaugos bus tiek ir iš Verslios Lietuvos, kur Versli Lietuva yra nusimačius paviljono rinkodarai 70 000 eurų, bet tai bus tik tai skirta pačio paviljono viešinimui ir galbūt tam tikrų produktų kategorijų. Ir kitas rinkodaros biudžetas bus jau individualus įmonių rinkodaros biudžetas, kurį jos nusimatys taip pat atskirai su operatoriumi. Ir logistikos sandėliavimo paslaugos, komisiniai mokesčiai taip toliau, taip pat jas apmokės įmonės. Taigi, kodėl verta dalyvauti projekte, verta dalyvauti, eiti po nacionalinių brandų? Tai visų pirma, kad Kinijoje vartotojų elgsena yra daugiau remta nacionaliniu pagrindu. Tai Kinijoje vartotojai labai kreipia dėmesį, iš kur prekė yra kilusi. Ir kadangi taip, tai iš kur prekė yra kilusi ir tas, kad Lietuva yra žinoma Kinijoje ir tas prideda irgi tam tikrą solidumą prekės ženklui. Tai taip pat yra paprastesnis klientų pritraukimas, kai yra skirtingos prekių kategorijos, kurios sinergizuoja. Tai tarkim, jeigu klientas ateina į paviljoną nusipirkti pieno produktų, tai taip pat gali įsigyti ir papildomų prekių tam paviljoną. Tai iš tikrųjų susidaro sinergija pagal prekių kategorijas. Ir taip pat kaštų pasidalinimas, tai jeigu mes turim panašių prekių kategorijų pagal įmonės, taip pat galima dalintis logistikos kaštais, klientų aptarnavimo kaštais ir kitais. Tai dabar kiek kainuoja dalyvauti projekte, tai ši suma yra skirtinga priklausomai nuo įmonės tipo, tai yra mažoms ir vidutinėms įmonėms ir didžiausiams įmonėms. Tai Versli Lietuva pagal de minimis valstybinę pagalbą dengia mažoms ir vidutinėms įmonėms infrastruktūros ir palaikymo kaštus, didžiausiams įmonėms tai kainuos 5,5 tūkstančio eurų. Taip pat tiek mažoms ir vidutinėms, tiek didžiausiams reikės mokėti depozitą, kuris bus Tmall Global platformai, kuris bus grąžinamas. Ir fiksuotas komisinis mokestis Web to Asia nuo pardavimų 5%, Tmall Global platformos komisinis mokestis nuo pardavimų, svyruojantis pagal prekių kategoriją. Ir Alipay mokestis už kaip finteko paslaugas transakcijoms. Ir kiti mokesčiai kaip logistika ir papildoma rinkodara bus žinoma vėliau, kai jau bus aiškios įmonės, kurios dalyvaus projekte ir bus žinomi poreikiai ir tai darins atskirai su mūsų operatoriumi. Taip, tai kai bus atrenkamos įmonės, tai atrenkamos įmonės į paviljoną bus dviejais etapais. Pirmame etape bus Verslios Lietuvos. Pirmiausia, pagal Verslios Lietuvos kriterijus, tai yra svarbu, kad įmonė būtų lietuviškos kilmės prekių gamintoja ir eksportuotoja, kad turėtų registruotą prekinį ženklą Europos Sąjungoje, Lietuvoje arba pasaulyje. Taip pat įmonė gaminanti plataus vartojimo prekes, kurios bus aktualios pardavinėjant tai per e-komercijos platformose. Rinkodaros metinis biudžetas skirtas tik tai įmonės paskirę paviljone ir tai bus tik tai numatoma didžiausiams įmonėms. Mažoms vidinėms įmonės tai negalios. Ir mažoms vidinėms įmonėms mažas vidinės įmonės turės turėti galimybę gauti de minimis pagalbą. Ir papildomi kriterijai, kurie yra rekomendaciniai, tai yra žmogiškiai ištekliai skirti projektui ir rinkodaros biudžetai. Ir antrame etape Web to Asia jau konkrečiai žiūrės į įmonių gaminamą produkciją ir kaip jos atrodo Kinijos e-komercijos kontekste, kaip atrodo Tmall Global platformoje ir darys jau tolimesnę analizę, tolimesnį screeningą šioms įmonėms atrinkti. Ir galutinį sąrašą įmonių tvirtins pati platforma Tmall Global. Ir taip, tai toks būtų įmonių atrankos, tokie būtų įmonių atrankos etapai. Tai projekto gairės, kaip mes matom, kokie žingsniai turi būti dedami iki atidarant šį paviljoną. Tai įvykdyta pirminė įmonė atranka, kurią numatom pabaigti vasario 1 dieną. Vėliau bus antrinė įmonė atranka, kaip ir minėjau, Pietryčių Azijoje, patvirtinas įmonių galutinis sąrašas, sukurtas paviljono logistikos ir klientų aptarnavimo modelis, sukurtas paviljono dizaino ir įmonių profiliai. Ir kai jau turėsim patvirtintą įmonių rinkodaros strategiją, numatomas atidarimas paviljono bus balandžio 5 diena. Tai dar yra preliminari data, nes, kaip ir sakiau, yra daug nežinomųjų ir bus matyti pagal įmonės, kurios dalyvaus projekte, bet tokia yra preliminari data. Ir kaip galite dalyvauti atrankoje, tai atranką mes iš tikrųjų paleidome ką tik, tai reikia užpildyti dalyvavimo projekte formą, kurią turėtų pasidalinti mano kolegos čate. Tai taip pat reikės pateikti reikalingus dokumentus, kurie bus skelbime toje pačioje nuorodoje, ir atsiųsti savo gaminamos produkcijos katalogus ir trumpą įmonės aprašymą man, mano paštu. Ir toliau kai turėsime pirminį sąrašą, galėsime judėti toliau su Pietryčių antrinė atranka. Tai tiek iš mano pusės ir dėkui, jeigu turėsit kažkokių klausimų, tai lauksiu klausimų atsakymų sesijoje.
Ačiū Taurai už prezentaciją. Tai raginu visus užduoti kuo daugiau klausimų. Manau, jų turėtų tikrai būti daug, nes reikia išsiaiškinti viską ir kad būtų aišku ir kad kuo mažiau klausimų būtų po to. Klausimus galite laisvai užduoti dar, kol turėsime paskutinį pranešėją ir po to jau liks mums mažiau laiko diskutuoti. Tai raginu kuo anksčiau tą padaryti. Ir dabar jau persijungsime vėl į anglų kalbą ir turėsime paskutinį pašnekovą, kuris jau papasakos apie kontraktus, kurie yra reikalingi dirbant su kinais. So I will switch to English now. We will have a final speaker. And this is our very good friend, Daniel Albrecht, who is a German attorney based in Beijing. Daniel already helped some Lithuanian companies dealing with the difficulties in China market. And today we'll shortly explain about the necessity of a contract. After his presentation, we'll move to the Q&A session. So Daniel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Andreas. Yeah, happy to be here today with you. And I hope you will enjoy my speech and it's not too boring for you. We try to show the topic today, what is actually on the first look a little bit basic, but we figured out during the last couple of months that a lot of Lithuanian companies, they do business with Chinese partners, but they didn't sign any contracts. And first, we are very surprised about this situation because it's a little bit unique in international business. But yeah, through our experience, we figured out why that is and why that happened. And today I will give you an overview about that. So let me try now first to go to my speech that I can load it up. Just a moment. Nope, that's the wrong one. I don't know what happened now. Why I cannot give this here? Give me 1 second. Yeah, actually, we did a test before, and all the time, if you do a test, then you have a problem. So, can you see that? This is a little bit problematic now. Why I cannot open, here, okay. Okay, I think finally I got it. Okay, let me give a second. Because I taped this F5, but nothing happened now. So, okay, I think finally we got it, right? Okay, perfect. Yes. Sorry for these technical difficulties, but sometimes if you test something, it's getting more worse later. Anyway, so back to the topic. We have actually quite of different reasons why people are not able to sign or don't want to sign contracts in China. And I think maybe the main reason is because there is a lot of gossip around Chinese companies and their behavior. So a lot of people thinking you don't need to sign a contract in China, or in China contracts are useless anyway because nobody will follow the regulations. Or somebody also say nobody can enforce contracts in China, so you don't need to sign them. And then you have also some, let's say, myths that contracts in China should not be too difficult. To be frankly, this is all bullshit, if I can use this kind of word, because professional Chinese companies acting in the same way like professional European companies are doing this. So if you work with someone together, if it's a business partner of you, online or offline, doesn't matter at all, and you want to purchase something or you want to sell something, usually everyone uses a contract. And contracts in China are same difficult or same not difficult like they are in Europe or in the US. So if someone tell you the contract must be only on one page, that's not true. And this is really not true. So you should work in the same direction together with Chinese like you do this, or like you would do this in your home country. So contracts are necessary. And at this reason, if it's coming to sign a contract, there are quite common mistakes what companies are doing in China. And this is not only about Lithuanian companies, this happened for all kinds of foreign companies in China. The biggest, let's say the first problem is incorrect or no jurisdiction agreement. So especially if it's coming to China, people forget we have mainland China, we have Hong Kong, we have Macau. And then sometimes, for example, they sign a contract with a company what is located in mainland China, but they want to get goods, maybe they are stored in Hong Kong or Macau, or they want to sell something to this kind of jurisdictions. And then they're forgetting totally to fix in the contract where is the port, where are the goods, and so on. And this is, of course, later also it have an impact on the location where you need to sue your other business partner. So if you don't want to get in trouble from the beginning, you need to fix this in your contract. And the second point is also a very important one in my point of view, because quite often European companies try to fix their own, let's say, law in the contract. So like German companies say like, oh, we want to sign a contract after German law, and then you have maybe some Lithuanian companies who like to say, oh, we signed the contract after Lithuanian law. But if you need to do legal action against a Chinese company, it is very, very difficult to enforce later a judgment of your own country into China, because then you need to transfer this judgment to China, and also later it is for you very cost and time intensive. So at this reason, we always advise our clients to work with Chinese law, because if your contract partner or your business partner is located in China, then it is always best to sign a contract under Chinese law. Third point is also something what happened really quite often, that people say, okay, we want to save money, so we like to go for arbitration. What is arbitration in detail? I will explain later. But here, under the point common mistakes, quite often it happened that these arbitration clauses in the contract are not detailed enough. And if these kind of clauses are not detailed enough, they are not valid. So that means then you are back to the ordinary courts. And what is also quite funny, that some companies sign contracts and they also write an arbitration clause into this contract, but this kind of arbitration court don't exist. So that means they sometimes use courts who are not existing. Of course, then your arbitration clause in the contract is good for nothing. And coming to the next point, this is something what is very specific for China, that sometimes people signing contracts who are not authorized to represent the company, or also they don't use Chinese names if they sign the contract. So maybe they use their English names or they use a combination of both. And then this kind of contract is not valid. It have no impact. It is impossible to enforce that later. And on the other hand, you need to know, if you're not so familiar with the Chinese market, that the stamp under the contract is much more important than the sign. So you need to have the seal under the contract, otherwise forget about it. So in China, the seal of the company is an important fact. The person usually who holds this kind of seal is also the person who is in charge. So please don't forget the stamps there. And then number 5, no agreement of Incoterms. Incoterms are international regulations about import and export matters. Here you can show something who is responsible about boarding, where to board, who need to check something, and so on. It's a very complicated topic, so I will only give you the headline here. But this is also something what is quite common to use in China. So I can only advise you to use international Incoterms in your contracts, that you don't have misunderstandings later. Something what we also see is often prepayment, and that people pay 100% prepayment. And this you should really never do. Please never do that. Of course, Chinese companies, if you purchase some products, they always want to have a down payment. Okay, if you pay 20%, 30%, you can do that, but you can also really deny to do it in 100%, because this is something what is also in China not common. And if you have a business partner who tell you, we only send you something if you pay 100% upfront, that is definitely the wrong partner for you. So don't do it. So, and let's come maybe a little bit to also the point what you need to check before you sign a contract, because also this timing is very important, because in China, sometimes companies have no foreign trade license. So that means this kind of companies are only able to do local business. So they are not able to deal with foreign companies because they don't have the license for them. So if you get in contact with a new business partner in China, take a look if they have a foreign trade license. Really take a physical look at it. Because if they don't have a foreign trade license, they need to have a foreign trade operator, some kind of agent who have this kind of license. Otherwise, it is impossible to do business with this kind of companies. Then, let's talk a little bit about the legal framework of contracts in China. Actually, the legal framework in China is quite good. You have the China contract law. It's very detailed. It's a very new law system. And you need to know, if you don't choose foreign law, let's say Lithuanian law, German law, British law, upfront in your contract, you're always later working under Chinese law. So if you don't make any kind of decision about this point in your contract, you are later dealing about in this Chinese law framework. And also there's one specific, let's say, there are some specific points in the Chinese law, in that you also can fall back into the Chinese law system. And this is special if national interests or other interests of China are touched or violated. So then also Chinese law can be important again. So that's only in a short way. Next thing, what happened quite often is that your business partner in China offer you to sign a standard contract. And this looks on the first step very sexy, because it is not expensive and it is maybe easier to do that. But in fact, this kind of standard contracts are in China mostly only positive for the Chinese side. So in the result, it will be much more expensive for you if you sign a standard contract, like if you would use an individual design contract for your business. So better is to invest a little bit money at the beginning than later to get in serious trouble. About the payment, I already talked a little bit before. But I want also to give you one advice here in these circumstances, that you also should consider to work with accreditives, and only a couple of Chinese banks are able to issue them. This is a very efficient payment method, and the risk for you later is much lower, like you pay in cash or with some other kind of instruments. The risk in China not to be paid, or that you lost the money what you paid already, is usually quite higher, like in many other countries. So this kind of instrument, same like a bank guarantee, is something what is, I think, also important point what you need to consider. So if you later get in trouble, of course, you also can get damage compensation. That's very similar to the system what we are knowing in Europe. So if someone violates a contract, you can here apply for damage compensation, and the system function actually very similar to them like in Europe, because the civil law in China is actually very, very similar to the German civil law system, because they adapt quite a lot of things from us. At this reason, don't be afraid of this. My last point is here the arbitration. What I mentioned at the beginning, to sign an arbitration clause is never bad, because arbitration is mostly more efficient, and it's also much faster, like if you go to ordinary court. But on the other hand, it is of course a little bit more cost intensive. And if you want to do arbitration, you need to have arbitration clause in your contract, like I already mentioned it at the beginning. And please don't do any kind of mistakes. It's not proper to write only 2 sentences. A good arbitration clause is quite long, so a half side you have all the time, because there are many different kind of arbitration courts in China. Most popular are in Beijing and Shanghai. And here it is not bad if you ask a professional not to avoid any kind of mistakes. So if you have any questions about the whole topic of contracts in China or some other law-related issues, please approach me or ask some questions now. And I want to say sorry for the technical problems at the beginning of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, very much for your insight. I think it's very useful information for all of us, because contract is one of the main parts when we have business with China. And also, I would like to thank you all the speakers who gave a presentation today, and we will move to the Q&A session. I believe that we received some questions in English, so I will ask you both, Renata and Lats, and you can choose who will answer to this question. So the first one is a question from Augusta. Which social media platform is the best for the beauty products?
So to be able to build social media, the one is the standard one that reaches everybody would be WeChat, right? That's the one where everybody's on. But if you're looking at something more specific, something like Little Red Book is very specialized in beauty products because of their consumer type, which is much more female driven.
Yes, it's very clear answer. The second one will be from a deeper. It's a question how to take all the taxes, including customs, for yourself rather than the consumer to pay it.
The way that the consumer will always pay the taxes. What you can do is to offer a discount coupon.
So probably it's worth to explain that in a cross-border e-commerce model, the taxes are paid by the consumer. It's the model itself.
Right, so the consumer always needs to pay the tax. What you can do is you can offer a coupon equivalent to the taxation amount. So for example, when you go in a store, if you know for your product the taxation will be 150, you will say for every transaction that is beyond 1,000 RMB, you will give 150 RMB of rebate. So that way, you will cover that import tax.
Great. So Edita Jankauskienė is asking, are you going to sell in Hema supermarkets? Edita, now we are talking about Tmall Global, and it's e-commerce platform, and the Hema supermarkets are physical shops.
So no.
Maybe. Okay, maybe I'm not correct, so you can...
Oh, no, you are correct. The goal is not to sell on Hema, because to be able to sell on Hema, you would need to import your goods in China. So it would be, Hema, you would need to import, then sell within China to Hema. The only way to be able to do cross-border is if you can, part of the goal is if we can get Tmall Global Supermarket to buy some of your goods. But that's a different process as well.
Great. The second question is from Lina Uadite. If products need to be stored at the controlled temperature, is it a problem?
No, it's not. A lot of the bonded warehouse has temperature control. So depending on what you mean. So if you're talking about full cold chain, that is not a problem. It's more about the limitation of the last mile delivery. But if it's just about making sure that your product, if it's in the cosmetics, it needs to be between 15 and 20 degrees, that is easily possible.
Probably Lina wanted to ask about frozen products.
So for frozen food, yes, it is possible. They are full cold chain where you're able to store in freezing temperature. All I'm saying is the last mile delivery will be limited to the proximity more of the region of the bonded warehouse. So you might not be able to cover the full China delivery in this case.
Another question is from Quatrina Gudjute. Is it easy to add European bank account details to Alipay? What is the other payment options, or Alipay best way to withdraw collected funds?
So the way, on a Tmall Global store, you can only pay through Alipay. Alipay, in this case, will send them, because we would be the store owner on the behalf of you guys, we would collect the money and then we can wire anywhere in Europe.
Yes, so next question is for Tauras. 70 tūkstančių eurų numatyta rinkodarai. Ar yra žinoma, kokie rezultatai yra planuojama pasiekti su šiuo biudžetu? Per kiek laiko planuojama panaudoti šį biudžetą? Čia yra metinis rinkodaros biudžetas ar mėnesinis?
Taip, tai biudžetas yra metinis ir kaip mes biudžetą panaudosim bus aišku tada, kai bus įmonės ir turėsime aišku rinkodaros planą, kurį taip pat derinsime su mūsų operatoriumi ir įmonėmis. Tai ir tada naudosim tą biudžetą jau pagal poreikį.
Taip, Laurinas Miškinis klausia, kokie tikslai yra keliami paviljonai, KPIs. Kaip bus matuojami sėkmės rodikliai ir kokių rezultatų siekiama?
Kaip ir sakiau, kadangi įmonių šiuo metu dar nežinome, kokios įmonės bus ir kokios yra įmonių galimybės, kokie yra produktai ir kokios yra galimybės parduoti juos Kinijos e-komercijai. Tai kol kas konkrečių KPIs mes negalim pasakyti, bet jie bus patvirtinti tada, kada turėsim jau galutinį įmonių sąrašą ir tada kelsimės tikslus.
Now it's a question for Lats. What will be the location of a warehouse where the products will be stored in China? Lats?
Sorry, I was on mute. Most probably it'll be either Shanghai or Hangzhou or Tianjin because it's more in the middle. So it's easier to reach most of the consumer within 2-3 days.
Who will provide logistics services? It will be up to a company or will be up to the operator?
So the logistics, the way that it works is you can, if you have a preferred forwarder or shipping partner, you can ship to a Chinese port. Otherwise, we will work with the Alibaba logistics network to be able to pick up your goods in Europe is also possible. So depending on individual companies' need, there's different solutions in place.
Thank you. The question from Augusta. Do you have experience with the beauty industry? Maybe you have any examples?
We have a lot of beauty clients. It can range from lipsticks, from skincare, from facial mask. Yes, we have quite a lot of clients in the beauty industry.
And how is it going for them at the moment?
Oh, beauty industry, I think Renata touched, is one of the biggest growing industry in the cross-border.
Next question is, can we deliver products from our warehouse in China?
No. We need to understand this is a cross-border transaction. So cross-border transaction is the goods needs to come from overseas. A bonded warehouse in the free trade zone is considered overseas, but if the good has been imported, you are not allowed to sell that in a cross-border. You would need to sell that into a domestic store.
Yes, so I will repeat also once again, we are talking about the cross-border e-commerce model. The products are not imported in China. They're being stored in a free economic zone. The question from Gitis, what is the likelihood of the customers being interested in organic fertilizers? Is this a category relevant for the cross-border e-commerce?
We need to be able to double check the data of that. I think part of the selection is as companies applies, we will also provide at one point data on the market segmentation and size to make sure that the product will be properly evaluated.
Another question from Gitis. What are the approximate expected delivery time for Chinese consumers?
So more and more the Chinese consumer wants the product quite fast, right? So they're looking at 2 to 5 days. Anything beyond that, you're starting to have inquiries about where's my product. So some stores will try to ship from Europe. The problem of shipping individual parcels from Europe to China, you're looking at 10 to 20 days. And based out of experience, Chinese consumers are losing patience over time.
Another question about the logistics. Who will provide customs clearance procedures in China side? It will be dedicated customs broker?
So when you send products to the bonded warehouse, it means that you will send all of the paperwork to pre-declare these goods. When the Chinese consumer will buy, the bonded warehouse is connected to the customs, and they can automatically clear the Chinese consumer with his ID card and the product that has been pre-declared. So in terms of the business, there's nothing to be able to do on custom clearance. All you need to do is to clear the products to be able to ship into the bonded warehouse.
A question from Berta. Will the delivery to the consumers will be free of charge? Who will handle and pay for the last mile delivery? Now we are talking about frozen food.
Yes. So all of the last mile delivery is a cost that we need to calculate with every individual partners to see if you want to be able to do free delivery, or we need to shift that to the consumer. So it's on a per case basis, but as a rule of thumb, the Chinese consumer expects, or is rather than expect, is used that the company pays for the delivery, right? We can always add a cost of delivery, but usually they are used that it's free delivery. So what we usually would do with our clients is, if you buy above 200 RMB, for example, I'll give you free delivery. Otherwise, I'll give you a surcharge, right? That model seems to be enough, because we can then this way, we can incentivize the consumer maybe to buy a bundle instead of buying an individual product, where your basket size will be larger, the profit margin might be higher, so you're able to cover for the logistics fee. So there's different ways to solve that problem.
Another question about the cosmetics. Do we need to make certification of a cosmetic products, ingredients, and etc.?
No. That said, it comes with an asterisk. You don't need to do, for example, animal testing because you're doing a cross-border transaction. But there are some ingredients that would be illegal in any cases in China. I'll give you an example. If we look, it's not cosmetics, but if you look at vitamins, caffeine is as a supplement is illegal. So you are able to sell products that is not certified, but if the ingredient is legal, therefore in the cross-border model, you would not be allowed to buy it. So there is a clear list of blacklisted ingredients that sometimes we can refer to.
Now the question is from a different industry. Do you have any experience about the home textile, bed linen, tablecloths, bath towels?
Yes, we do. We are starting a few projects related to that. So we are starting bathroom towels. We're starting beddings, pillows. The cross-border market for these industry is gigantic.
So you see the potential for
this? There's extremely high potential in that.
Great. Please, you can take a rest a little bit. We will give the floor to Tauras now. Taurai, Laurinas prašo, tiksliau patikslina klausimą. Paviljonas kuriamas kaip platforma, kurią galės naudotis Lietuvos įmonės. Kokiais rodikliais bus grindžiama, kad paviljonas yra kokybiškas, tinkamai vykdoma priežiūra, yra patrauklus lyginant su kitų šalių paviljonais, tinkamai reprezentuojama Lietuvos eksportuotojus? Galiu pakartoti, nes ilgas klausimas.
Ilgas klausimas, gerai.
Ar pakartoti?
Pakartok.
Taip. Paviljonas kuriamas kaip platforma, kurią galės naudotis Lietuvos įmonės. Kokiais rodikliais bus grindžiama, kad paviljonas yra kokybiškas, tinkamai vykdoma priežiūra, yra patrauklus lyginant su kitų šalių paviljonais, tinkamai reprezentuojama Lietuvos eksportuotojus?
Tai, ta prasme, yra iškelti tam tikri, pirmiausiai, pagal finansavimą mūsų šaltinį yra iškeltas tikslas, kokios pajamas turėtų generuoti tas paviljonas, minimalus, bet tokių aiškių KPI-sų, kad kokybinių KPI-sų mes kol kas dar neturime nusimatę. Taip, tai kol kas kokybinių KPI-sų mes neturime. Mes turime nusimatę, koks turėtų būti atsiperkamumas to paviljono, bet kokybinių KPI-sų neturime.
Aš manau, Laurinai, jūs laisvai galėsit pasikalbėti su Tauru asmeniškai ir išsigryninti tuos KPI-sus kartu. Taip, Lats, please come again on the floor. Now we have a question. Is this cross-border business able to manage container loads? Because it seems now that it's max 1-2 pallets business.
No, that's very false. The quantity of load is depending on a couple of factors. If your product is hot, and then the inventory planning and the product planning with the sales planning justify to be able to put a container in a bonded warehouse is not a problem. We have clients that's able to put 12 containers into the bonded warehouse because they're able to sell 12 containers in the span of 2 months, right? It all depends on the capacity of sell-through. You would not be allowed to, for example, to store one container for 2 years because that's your sales plan. There's not enough space in the bonded warehouse. The goal of the bonded warehouse is to take the quantity that you're able to sell within that timeline, and that's what they will store because they need to move goods in and out. It is not a storage place for the long term.
Thank you for the answer. I have personal question regarding bounded warehouse. So this warehouse will belong to the private logistic company, or it will be?
It belongs to Alibaba. Okay, so Alibaba has a logistics network, which is, I mean, it's a company that is owned by Alibaba, right? And then they provide the bonded warehouse services, and the Chinese government has decided which areas is allowed to have these free trade zones for B2C. Not all free trade zone is allowed to operate this type of bonded warehouse.
So when we talk about the space, let's say how much space it will be possible to get for Lithuanian pavilion. Is it limited or is it flexible?
There's no limit in space. It's always limited by the sales plan. So if we say like brand A, we know that brand A over the next 3 months, he's able to sell 1,000 or 10,000 units. That's what we submit as space request to bonded warehouse. And if Tmall approves your sales plan, the bonded warehouse will make the space for that.
Now it's clear. Johnny is asking, is there such services as Amazon in China?
You mean fulfilled by Amazon type? I guess it would be like, yes and no. There's not available on a cross-border model. On a domestic model, it is possible.
Mentote is asking, is there a potential for children clothes? Is there
A
any
lot.
recommended minimum quantity of products for example, if we are selling clothes?
So if you're selling clothes, it's a little bit tricky because you have a large amount of SKUs and color and size and model variation. So the way that we would need to look at it is, what are the key hero products? Start with those on a limited scales and see how we can probably build the brand so we can expand out. But we can definitely not be able to go like, let's go in on a full collection. So we need to think always about being more selective. Otherwise, there's no way that the store is able to carry 1,000 SKUs. It will not be manageable at that level.
The question about the details of the cost. Can you please list the whole structure of all costs and taxes that will need to be paid per product until it reaches the end customers? So mainly it's probably a path of the cost and how we divide it.
Okay, so the cost is divided into, let's say, 4 buckets. The first bucket is your logistics costs that you need to look into, from shipping from Lithuania to the bonded warehouse, the cost for the last mile delivery. So the cost for the last mile delivery from the bonded warehouse average out to around 13 RMB for the first half kilo, plus 5 RMB per extra kilos from the bonded warehouse. So that will be the logistics cost. The next layer of cost, there is the Tmall. I think Taurus laid that out. There's the Tmall commission and the Alipay commission. So that's a cost per sales. Then there is the marketing cost that we need to consider into that. So anything that's related to marketing, if you put money on social, if you put money on media buy, or on a marketing, that will be the cost. And then there is our commission. So those will be the 4 different buckets of categories of cost.
Yes, again about the costs, how companies can calculate logistic costs? Probably it's individual.
It has to be an individual cost. The reason is, well, it depends, right? If you're able to work on a container basis and you're able to aggregate multiple companies together where you will, each one of you can work with the same forwarder, logistics company, and if share that container, your cost will go down, right? But you're right, the cost of logistics to ship from Lithuania to China, it needs to be individually calculated if you're going to send it alone.
Yes, and Lats explained about the cost in China already. Yes, could you tell me the average marketing costs of the product? Is it possible to at least to predict what would be the budget?
So the average marketing cost is something that's very tricky to calculate. It's a mixture of in which category that you are, what type of consumer segmentation that you have, because we will drive traffic at the store level. So can we convert the store level traffic to your products? And then you need to add marketing. So every single merchant, we need to sit down and understand what is their objective, right? Is it initially we need to build more of the brand, or if your product is already known, we need to be able to counter bid compared to other guys. So each marketing plan is different. As a rule of thumb, a general rule of thumb, the expected sales revenue in year 1 that you would like to achieve, you need to think potentially to put 20 to 30% into the marketing for that. That's the general rule of thumb from Alibaba. Is it applicable to everybody? No, it's just as a guidance to how to be able to look at things.
Thank you. The next question is from Urte. What happens with a product in a bonded warehouse if we will not be able to sell everything in designated time?
That's a very interesting question, because I guess that if your product is perishable, it has a short shelf life, or even cosmetics, what happens to that is usually if your product has an expiration date, the Chinese consumer does not like to buy a product. If the shelf life is 12 to 18 months, starting at 6 months, they're not interested in buying that. They want always the most fresh product. So what we would do at the store level is we would need to start to look at running campaigns to be able to sell it off.
Yes, probably I will clarify the question of Urte, because earlier you were explaining that it's impossible to hold products for a long period. So let's say that what is the period that the products can stay in a warehouse?
There's no period that it can say, because it's all based on sales plan. If your sales plan doesn't succeed, that means your product will stay there longer, right? It's just at one point, the bonded warehouse will ask you, you need to do something about it because we need to clear space, or because your product is expiring. So what happens is every single shipment that goes into the bonded warehouse, we need to declare the expiration date. So they know from this pallet, the expiration date will be December 2021. So at one point, you'll receive notifications that, hey, something needs to be done about this, because your product is expiring.
Now it's clear, I think. Question from Aurelia Poziene. What are the main criteria for the Tmall approval of the goods or declinement? Are there any specific product groups that they usually decline?
No, there's no really a definition of what they can decline, as long as the product is legal.
And what are the criteria for approval?
Well, if we want to add a product into a Tmall store, we need to submit your global trademark. We need to submit, if you don't have if the company does have a trademark, we need to see that you have an authorization to be able to sell that product. You need to be able to, the product needs to be classified of some sort, so it's legal. So an example is, recently we have launched CBD, which is hemp-based products. Hemp-based, because it's so new, custom did not know how to declare that at customs, so it took us a longer period of time to make it approved. At the end of the day, what we've realized is CBD on a personal care level, skincare, lipsticks, is legal. What is not legal would be consumable CBD that you can eat. So for example, supplements, type of food. So that's what I'm talking about, legal or not legal. If the product is legally allowed in China, you would be able to sell it on Tmall.
Okay, so there is no such kind of suitable or not suitable for a China market?
There's none. All it is market segmentation, right? If you're saying to me, I want to sell a plane on Tmall Global, you're able to sell a plane in China, but on Tmall Global, it might not be the right environment to sell a plane.
Yes, so probably it's a question for both Tauras and Lars. Is there a plan how we will communicate with Web2Asia after the contract will finish between Enterprise Lithuania and Web2Asia? So Tauras or Lars, if you know the answer, how it will be, so you can...
So the question is like how we will communicate after the contract is finished, right?
Yes.
Well, so right now we have a contract for until the end of this year, but we have plans to extend this contract for a longer period. And then if everything goes according to plan, we would like this project to have a continuation. So, so companies that already have a contract with Enterprise Lithuania and Web2Asia, they don't need to extend the contract, except if we will have companies that will be rotating within the pavilion. So we'll have an exact number of companies that will rotate every year. So only those companies that will rotate, their contracts won't be extended, and we'll have another like a few companies that will be new and will join the pavilion.
A suggestion from Raimundas, so probably it's to both Enterprise Lithuania and the Web2Asia. It would be very helpful to make manual about the calculation about the costs from the supplier to the final user. It will make more clear picture.
Sure, we can, if anybody wants to go through that exercise, we can sit down and drill that cost. I think the logistics part is what's unknown, but all of the other costs is pretty much standard that we can work with you guys. Right? We can, if the model works out, we can share a standard P&L type of sheet where people can fill and understand the cost structure as well.
It's a very good suggestion. I think if you could do that, it could be very helpful for everyone. So
I'll write a note about it.
Yeah, so everyone could count the potential cost for them. And yes, another question from Edita. Is there a possibility to make a contract with more than one Tmall partner? If yes, how to control the price then?
You are able to make a contract with multiple Tmall players. The pricing control needs to be on your end. When you are with the store of us, for sure you control the price because that's the agreement that we have. The store is part of this initiative. But if you sell the product to somebody else that owns a Tmall store, that's something that you would need to be able to manage.
Yes, it's quite obvious. The question from Lina, I suppose organic fertilizers need to be registered in China. Can you help with it?
I don't think so. Product register, I think it's more of a legal element because that might require a local import.
Yeah, so it's more about the fertilizers, and we still don't know regarding fertilizer sales in cross-border e-commerce.
So we can double check that if it's allowed or not, for sure.
So Lina, yeah, you can talk with Tauras and Lars regarding this question directly. Gintautas is asking, is custom clearance taxes are the same in cross-border e-commerce? Probably it's in comparison with regular one.
No, it's not. The cross-border taxation, because it's a B2C transaction. It's a consumer tax related, so it's much lower than if you would do a normal B2B where you would import the products, because then it's a business-to-business transaction. You would pay the import tax, VAT, which you can probably offset when you resell in China, right? So that taxation is much different than the B2C segment. So the average taxation for cross-border is like 11.6%.
This one was the last one in the list. So we received more than 30 questions. It's very good that the companies is asking, and I'm really glad about it. So I hope that they will have more individual questions already talking with you in a concrete cases. So yep. If there are no questions, I think we already overcome. Yes, Rasa would like to add some comments. So
yes, just a remark, because there were a couple of questions on the KPIs of the project for Tauras. I'll answer in English maybe, okay? Of course, we always have, from the angle of state money, budget money, investment, right? We have the KPIs, at least what kind of return of investment it should bring. So normally our ratio is that €1 brings around 10 euros back, right? So if we spend, for example, for this project, 200,000 euros, then we expect, what, 2 million?
Yes.
2 million. So it is not something skyrocket, I think, for 20 companies in 1 year. So let's be hopeful. And as per quality criteria, quality requirements, there were some questions. If we have some quality requirements for this pavilion, of course we do. There were a lot of requirements when we were, let's say, following the public procurement. And one of them was the ability to have the certain infrastructure, right? To have this pavilion, because as the government agency, we cannot be directly involved in the transition of funds. So it was very, very important for us to be able to build such a model where we have a licensed agency to be as an operator, right? And then we are not participating, we are owning the pavilion, but we are not participating in the monetary exchange, in the transactions, because that is being done directly by the companies who are selling in the pavilion together with the operator and then the platform. So, and to finish on the quality, obviously we observe the quality and we will be feeding and giving the input and shaping the contents of it together with Web2 Asia. So it is in our best will to ensure that Lithuania is being presented in the best products that we have, right? To build on the biggest potential that we have, to choose the nice colors, and to have the best cultural stories and cultural associations that we like ourselves to be presented with. So thank you.
Thank you, Rasa. Thank you all the speakers for such presentations. I think we receive lots of food for our brain, and every company should revise at the moment all the information and make a decision. I suggest to talk with Tauras immediately while it is hot, and you know, to ask all these individual questions, because I believe that we talked more about general things, and every company has its own strategies and own directions towards China market. So thank you very much for all the speakers, for your patience, and it took 2 hours. We exceeded to half an hour. Thank you for that. Thank you all companies who being here, listening to us. I hope it was useful to you. And most importantly, be safe.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everybody soon. Thank you for your patience. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.